The Haunting at the Stanley Hotel. It was supposed to be a fun company retreat and exciting weekend getaway with my coworkers. We had all heard the rumors, the legends, the whispers about the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. It was the inspiration behind The Shining, the very place where Stephen King himself had experienced supernatural occurrences, a perfect setting for ghost stories. I never thought I'd be living one. The trip started like any other corporate retreat. We arrived on a crisp Friday afternoon, the cool mountain air refreshing against my skin. The hotel stood grand and imposing against the backdrop of snow-dusted peaks, its red roof and white walls contrasting sharply against the deepening sky. The place exuded an eerie charm, as if it knew the secrets it held and was daring us to uncover them. After dinner, our group of 15 signed up for the 8 p.m. ghost tour guided walk through the hotel's most haunted locations, filled with stories of unexplained sightings, lingering spirits, and eerie whispers that echoed through empty halls. We were instructed to take as many photos as possible, as some guests had caught orbs, shadowy figures, and even ghostly apparitions on camera. I wasn't convinced. Not yet. The tour started in the grand ballroom, where we learned about F.O. Stanley, the hotel's founder, who was said to still roam the halls, ensuring his beloved establishment was well kept. The guide's voice was animated, full of theatrics, and it set the mood perfectly. But as we moved deeper into the heart of the building, something changed. The air seemed to thicken, the shadows stretched longer. It felt like we were being watched. Then came the basement of the concert hall. The guide led us down a narrow staircase, the air growing noticeably colder as we descended. "This is where Lucy was found," he said, pausing dramatically. Lucy, the girl who had taken shelter here years ago, hiding from the cold after being forced out of her home. She didn't make it. Her frozen body was discovered the next morning, curled up in the dark corners of the basement. But her spirit? Some say she never left. We were encouraged to take photos. I hesitated before snapping a picture, my fingers feeling oddly numb against my phone. A few people whispered nervously, pointing at their screens. Green orbs. Little floating specks of light that weren't there before. Then someone gasped. A coworker standing next to me held up their phone, and there, on the screen, was something impossible. A little girl, wearing a hot pink dress. I froze. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. She hadn't been there. I would have noticed. We all would have noticed. But there she was, standing at the far end of the room, slightly blurred, as if caught mid-motion. Our guide's face went pale. "That's not possible," he whispered. "No children were on this tour." A nervous laugh escaped from someone in the group. "It's just a trick of the light, right?" But deep down, we all knew better. The guide continued, his voice a little shakier than before. "Lucy is known to appear in photos. She doesn't always show herself to the naked eye." A heavy silence settled over us. Some tried to brush it off, but I saw the way my coworkers clutched their phones, fingers tightening, breaths held. The rest of the tour passed in a blur. I couldn't shake the image from my mind, the pink dress, the unmistakable shape of a child where no child should have been. But the real horror came later that night. I was assigned a room on the 3rd floor, supposedly one of the most active paranormal hotspots. I had laughed it off earlier in the day, but now, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my unease grew. The room felt wrong. The air was thick, the silence pressing against my ears. Then came the knocking. Soft, deliberate taps against my door. I held my breath, listened. The knocking continued. I reached for my phone, the screen lighting up my trembling hands. 3:12 a.m. I wasn't imagining it. I forced myself out of bed, every step feeling like I was moving through water. My fingers closed around the doorknob. I twisted, pulled it open. Nothing. The hallway stretched in both directions, eerily empty. The old wooden floor creaked under my weight as I took a cautious step forward. I peered down the hall, my stomach knotting. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from my camera roll. I frowned. I hadn't taken any photos. My heart pounded as I tapped on the screen. The latest picture. It was my door. A picture taken from outside my room. I slammed the door shut, my breath ragged, my hands shaking. I locked it, deadbolted it. Something was wrong. Something had been there, watching me. I barely slept after that. Every creak of the hotel sent a shiver down my spine. Every shadow felt like it was moving. By sunrise, I had made up my mind I was getting the hell out of there. The next morning at breakfast, I scanned the faces of my co-workers. Some were laughing, chatting about the trip, but I could tell I wasn't the only one who hadn't slept. As we packed up to leave, I overheard our guide speaking with one of the hotel staff. "It happened again," he murmured, his voice hushed. Another picture, same girl, same dress. I walked out of the Stanley Hotel that day, the mountain air crisp and fresh against my face. But I didn't feel relieved. I felt watched, and I never want to go back.